Welcome back to the Creating Distance podcast hosted by TA Sales. I'm your host, Tom Alaimo. Some people call me Tommy Tahoe. And each week on Fridays, we'll be bringing you an episode to break down with salespeople and sales leaders the top tips, tactics, strategies, stories that you need to get to the next level of your career and up-level yourself. So let's get into it.
All right, Jacco, welcome to the Creating Distance podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Excited to have a legend in the SaaS sales world on the show today and dive into everything winning by design and AI and what's top of mind for you. I think where I want to start is you catch me, you pattern interrupted me in doing some of my research on your LinkedIn of saying that working with customers opened my eyes and changed my life. And that's not that's not the kind of sentiment that you see from most sellers, business leaders, sales leaders on their LinkedIn. So I'm just curious, like, if you could expand on that a little bit and what do you mean by that, and maybe that how that leads to your insane passion and energy around sales.
Yes. I've come to learn, Tom, that over the years when you work with customers and your goal is to help them solve problems, that the term either we need to change the term customers because they become more friends. They enter a certain a realm of relationships. You want to help them. You want to help them to succeed. And that to me, like over the years changed my eyes because many of my customers became a good friend, coaches and whatnot, like 20, 30, 35-year relationships for me nowadays in this world of sales. And it's hard to call somebody that you know 25, 30 years and you meet them on the street and you introduce them to your partner in life and you say, that's my customer. Like, no, you're going to say, that's Jeff, you know who I'm always on the phone with. That's him, right? Like something like that. And that has opened my eyes.
So is that, I feel like there's a debate oftentimes with sellers or sales leaders about when they're working with their team, let's say it's a VP of sales, and are the reps on her team, are they friends or are they not friends? Do you get personal? Do you not? It sounds like on the other side of you working with customers, you get to that level. It sounds like you're comfortable getting to that level with customers, partners, people that might work for you at Winning by Design and at previous places that you worked. Is that a fair assumption?
That's absolutely fair, but it's very simple. You're just trying to help other people with the best intentions and the best capabilities that you have. And if you do that, then words like trust are an output, are not like a focus. That's an output. The fact that a customer trusts you, right? And the fact that your team trusts you, like that is purely an output of your best intentions to act and be on their best interest, not necessarily always on your best interest. But I have to say, if you act on the best interest of your customers, if you act on the best interest of your team, isn't that the best interest for everyone? Doesn't that automatically, result in a great outcome for everyone?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'd love to learn a little bit selfishly as someone that left the software sales world to build a sales training and coaching business 2 years ago. Winning by Design is one of the blueprints of success that a lot of people like me, have a deep admiration and respect for. So I'd love to, before we get to nowadays and AI and everything that's happening and changing in the go-to-market landscape, I'd love for you to just educate me a little bit about, take me back to 12, 13 years ago. I think you were a sales leader, had an exit, seemed like maybe you were doing some dabbling with consulting or working with venture companies before you started Winning by Design. But could you take me to that time period of, what led you to start it? What were the early days? Was it just mostly keynote speeches? And then we can kind of walk through your journey a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like that is fantastic, like keynote speeches. No, Tom, the early days, you are the furniture that gets shuffled around. First of all, when you start your consulting firm, most of the time you start selling to your best friends and people that you know well. And those people are not paying full price. They're not going to pay you like top dollar. So first of all, every week you are trying to make the ends meet. Every month you're looking at like which bills are due and how much do I need to make to not lose money on it. And that I think often takes 2 to 3 years to get really out of that thing. That also means that you don't get to pick the jobs that you want. So I was doing PowerPoint presentations, right? Helping create slides for the board and whatnot. And those are not always, they sound like great, but you get calls on a Saturday night. It's like, hey, can you move that icon like 3 pixels to the right and align it and change the color here? And, like you go like, okay, like that's not what I envisioned running our own business work. So you're kind of like doing a little bit of everything. And that's the first 2 to 3 years. But then eventually, you get a good customer that you want to track along. And then before you know it, they spread word and then you're off to the races.
Was there a defining moment that happened to you in that time period where it's like you landed a key account and then you were able to either do more interesting work for you, bigger projects, hire people with you? Like, what was that big break for you?
It's a catenation of breaks. It's not one or the other. But to mention several, Eli Cohen, then from Salesforce, recommended me into a large account and said, like, he's a good consultant. And I had worked with Eli a little bit when he was at Salesforce, or we helped set up Mark Benioff for some broadcast. But and so that gave me a great account. Harvard Business Review, I got an introduction into Harvard Business School. And before I knew it, we were writing an article for Harvard Business Review. Of course, that gives a fantastic moment, right? I ran into Dan Smith, right? Like somebody who embodied the same kind of mindset and who could take really training. Anyway, so you meet people, like you get opportunities. So those are the moments. And you miss a bunch of them, right? You miss raising your kids, or you get into an ugly divorce of some sorts because you're always on the road, you're always trying to make money, ends meet, right? Like stress is high. It's not an easy route to take for most, and you definitely have to have the passion to pull you through that.
Walk me through the name Winning by Design. I feel like when I go on the site, just from that name, revenue architecture, got the impact roadshow, I think is what it's called, that you all are in the middle of right now for this summer going across the country. How do you pick names for things? I feel like as someone that's company is right now based off of the initials of their name, which is quite lame if I do say so myself. How do you, where does your mindset go to the creativity of branding?
Yeah. So first and foremost, you already observed it. I grew up in a world where many of the training firms were named after the inventor, right? Hyman was one, right? Like as you go through them, you go like, oh,
Dale Carnegie, all these,
all the names of the person is on the building, right? Like what's the Salt Lake City one, the famous one? Anyway, the
Sandler
name is on the building, and I don't believe. I believe there needs to be something bigger that is more timeless than a name, right? Obviously, like if you have a strong name and you do a good job, then the name will be there on its own. And so I felt like we needed a title. Now, obviously, we do a lot by design. I'm an original electrical engineer, so I design things. And it needs to be, resulting in sales. But if you say selling, then it's often very one-dimensional. Right? Like winning is, am I helping my customer to win, or am I winning? Who's winning? We're all winning, right? Like, so I'm going like, okay, that's where the title comes from. And by design is obviously has also an element of design. As you often see, we design a lot with colors and graphics. We're always very engaged in making sure that there's a visual element to it, a very visual appeal, minimal colors. Like black and blue and white are the only two colors that we use in most cases, right? Like nowadays a little bit more magenta to reflect the AI part.
So do you, with your engineering background, do you feel like that plays a major role or has played a role in how you put together, the revenue architecture, for example, and just some of these, I see you doing all these whiteboard sessions and diagramming it and kind of like preaching the gospel of winning by design, so to speak. Do you think that has a major impact in how you think and how you run the business?
Yeah, I think human beings are very visual human beings, so you got to make it visual. Yeah. Sometimes we go over the top and the visuals become too complex and you need to create builds in order to create that. But in the end, visuals. I believe in a single graph of a pull-out quote and a few metrics along the line. That's what I believe, that you can point and visualize things. I believe that when we human beings communicate, we have to practice in role plays. We can't practice by reading a book. You got to actually do it. So all these things have, as you recognize, they are winning by design hallmarks, right? We always role play, we always draw on whiteboards or blackboards when we're online, visually very appealing. And it's the way human beings work, like the way human beings work. Now, that doesn't mean that audio podcasts don't have an element too. They have also a fantastic element. And they allow people to listen on walks, for example, right? It's another medium that does really well.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk and spend some more time on where your head is at. You put out a post recently, and I think this was also, in tandem with what I've referenced at the CRO Summit around, really like this fourth element of, how companies can drive revenue, right? Usually there's like the new lead bucket, there's the renewal bucket, there's like the upsell and cross-sell bucket. And now, you would kind of mention this reservoir of users that are, really ignored, I guess, by most companies. I don't know if that's too strong of a word, that, some have labeled as like PLG on steroids. So I'd love for you to maybe just walk the listener through what what you're seeing in the world of these AI native companies, and how some of the first movers are taking advantage that they can serve more customers in a better way, in a quicker way, and then obviously be able to grow revenue in a non-ZERP world.
Yeah. So what we're doing is, like the onset of is the following. We're seeing SaaS natives, those companies who started 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, like SaaS natives, often we know what that means, right? We see their growth generally stall and prematurely stall, right? Obviously every growth, but we had higher expectations of those growth metrics, and now they're prematurely stalling. And that is for many reasons that we all know, like your email box is full, automatic responders are on, nobody picks up a phone call, all that stuff. And then we see AI natives accelerate growth. And so to give you an idea, having done just the research, AI natives grow about 4 times faster at about 1/4 of the cost, right?
Wow.
That's significant. And so now it is in a particular sector. It's a lot of that in the DevOps tools right now. We see it will spill over to other tools like marketing tools and other things that have a similar profile. But what we notice is, what can we learn from something that grows 4 times faster at 1/4 of the cost, right? Because that sounds awfully a lot like what SaaS was doing to perpetual software in the early 2010, 2011. We were doing that we were having that pitch. We were that newcomer. And I go now it's happening to SaaS, right? And so I'm trying to look at it as hey, what are the fundamental principles that makes an AI native company grow very fast? And you're going to see in that, you're going to see a lot of PLG like characteristics. Instant onboarding is one of them. Easy UI UX, right? These are all like things where you go. And then you're going to see is they use growth loops. And that growth loops is where I go okay, can we casually onboard a $250,000 security software package with single sign-on? No. We cannot translate that. But the fact that we can certain users, that we can create growth loops, we can go back to the bow tie and we go hey, where are these growth loops happen? Which ones apply to a particular customer, and how can we amplify that? And there's known growth loops. You already mentioned the number one. Number one growth loop that we have is retention. But retention can never go over 100%. So retention is all about not losing that what you've already earned, right? So It's only not going back. Expansion helps, but expansion only goes so far. You cannot sustainably create 130% NRR, year over year over year over year. That's really hard. So an expansion often requires new products. You need to acquire somebody. And so the growth is capable, but takes years. Takes years to grow, right? The NRR need to be applied to 4, 5, 6, 7 years. These companies are growing to $10 million, $100 million before the renewal cycle is up.
That's crazy.
So they're not using retention nor expansion directly, right? And then that's where I found, you already alluded to it. I found that the main thing that these companies with those characteristics have is they have a very strong user focus, and that user focus translates in users helping to build pipeline. And they do that natively. So these companies don't think about it. They don't have whiteboards sessions where they go like, and now I'm going to have the user and we're going to do it this way. And then the user is going to attract. They don't do that. They just have the user achieve positive outcomes, have the user be excited, have the user have fantastic experience. And that natively then generates that user growth. The difference here is, Tom, we in the SaaS world historically, when we won a customer, we thought of them as a logo, as an entity. We think of the entity being a customer. They think of the entity being a user. And that is a different mindset. Because every customer can have dozens, if not hundreds of users. And if you have 100 customers and you have 100 users on your platform for every average on every customer, that's 10,000 users. That is bringing a significant force to the table to help you grow fast.
Interesting. So how would a SaaS, let's just pick something generic, I'm running a CRM company, I'm challenging Salesforce and HubSpot. What would I be doing differently tactically if I was AI native within those users? You've got sales reps in there, you've got operations folks, you got whoever else using the CRM. What is an example of that tactically, how they're, operating differently in that lens?
Okay, think of the following. Step number one. Think of you selling an original CRM solution in some form or shape. Could be an applicant tracking system, could be an email automation system, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And who you're selling to? Give me an idea who you're selling to.
I'm just thinking if I'm a standard CRM,
it's $20,000.
I sell to a marketing leader.
Okay, you sell to a marketing leader. What's the company size?
Mid-market. It's a couple hundred employees.
Couple of hundred employees, and we're going to call that company right now Acme, right?
Okay.
And so you're selling to Acme, right? And so now when Acme buys of you and he buys a $20,000 piece of software, right? How is that thing going to get approved? What are you dealing with?
You're going to go. VP's going to go to the CMO. She's going to say, yeah, sure. Maybe you have to build a business case depending on the company size or something like that, and they sign off for the 1-year contract.
So you're gonna have a champion, you're gonna have a decider, you're gonna have an executive buying committee, and so on and so forth, right?
Yep.
And that is a traditional process.
Yep.
Now we're not doing it that way in this approach. We don't sell that because your buyer is not the user. In most cases, the buyer and the champion are not actively users of the platform, at least not on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And so what you'll see is down here, I'm telling you is like, I need you to deal with the user. In the case of a sales team, it would be the independent seller, right? Mm-hmm. Like what would a seller use? So you would build a product you don't build a CRM for the company with a centralized database. You build a CRM for the seller to help the seller have a fantastic experience managing his or her accounts, making sure that they stay up to date, not forgetting any action items. So for example, this would be my take. I want a CRM that I can upload. Listen to this. It's my favorite request. Yep. I want to know which person I need to call when and have a Netflix queue from the old red envelopes letter, right? I want to have a constant queue that refreshes itself. Say like, hey, you need to call Jeff every month. And so Jeff shows up every month. And then whenever I'm in the car, I just go to my queue and start dialing people and have 5-minute conversations. That is a CRM that is focused at me, doing something for me, not for the company. Now, what I'm saying is I'm going, like, I'm the user, and I go, Tom, dude, I just saw this great tool. You got to use this tool, man. You got to try it out. I give it a little bit of sex appeal, a cool look, right? And now before I know it, I'm enlisting you to join me, and you're enlisting, and we are 5 sellers that work for company X, who doesn't matter in this case, and we're all using the same tool. And now my boss comes to me and go like, hey, what are you guys using? And I go like, I'm using Tom's tool, right?
Yeah.
That is the difference in a user mindset versus a company-based mindset. Does not apply to all products. Right? Does not. Yeah. We can't go after students of a K-12 students like we cannot do that, right? So we got to go after teachers or the districts doesn't apply. It is just a new way. And Tom, I'm telling you, this is not new. This is how Sales Loft started. This is how Outreach started, and they are not even new because they learned it from Marketo and Eloqua. They were all doing the same thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like when I worked at Gong, I mean, that was part of what we wanted, we called it raving fans, and we wanted customers, we wanted reps to love it. And some reps didn't want it because they didn't want their calls recorded or what have you. But we did have a lot of people that would get really excited, or they get excited about some of the marketing, data driven reports that we'd write and things like that. So that stands out. So how would, to me, it almost feels like you're fundamentally changing what the goal of the company is, because in some cases, or what the product is, because in Acme Corp, I'm creating a CRM that helps the VP of sales understand their forecast. And in X Corp, you're talking about a CRM that helps the end user, that helps the sales rep make more dials or sell more deals or whatever it might be, and benefits them, which ultimately will drive more revenue for the VP of sales. Do you think that's an actual product level decision, or do you think it's just how you market what you're selling at this point?
It took Atlassian, I think, about like 240 months to get to 500 million. It took GitLab about 124, between 124 and Datadog 144 months to get to 500 million. It took Cursor 24 months to get to 500 million. What I'm trying to say is, Tom, that approach to I need to do what the company wants is proving to be, in many cases, bad. Because if the company wants it, but the users will not adopt it and will not enter the data like we have seen with CRM, or enter fake data just to get the people off their back, right? Or incomplete data and whatnot, then the company doesn't get what it wants in the first place. That mindset shift, again, doesn't apply to everyone, right? But we need to build products for those people who use the products, not for those people who want others to use those products and then reap the rewards for it in ways like, oh, give me something simple. That's the mindset difference that we see today. Now, it has a very PLG-like nature, right? It feels very PLG-ish. I think where you see that the main difference is PLG often stays on a user level. And, like in the early days, Prezi was one of its first PLG-based popular models, hundreds of millions of users. I forgot how big. They must have gone well over 100 million users. But what today's companies do, like Cursor, like Datadog, like Bolt nowadays, like companies like, there are, like dozens of them. Yep. They very quickly then switch to a sales-led motion where they go like, okay, now we got some momentum. Now let's get the company on board, right? And now we see very quickly where suddenly these user-led motions that sell at $50 a piece start to become $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 motions. I just was speaking yesterday to Amanda Kalo, a founder and CEO of OneMind, right? A fantastic AI-driven product. And she was saying that is exactly happening. They first bought one, and now suddenly these customers are becoming multi-$100,000 customers where they buy multiple AI agents and the business starts to grow. And that doesn't even account for the consumption-based pricing behind, right? Like imagine that is a new motion that expands PLG. Right? PLG, GitLab is very PLG. Atlassian is very PLG. But it took them years to start expanding from that user-led motion to that to the logo wins. And nowadays we see that the current generation of AI natives switches very quickly over to that. And I must say, Tom, that is not because of just fantastic product. We must understand that is because there's a fantastic opportunity in the market being created, right? Like there's a problem and an opportunity that's create this ideal storm where this mix fits in. And the problem is clear. Neither buyer nor sellers are happy with the past experience of buying and selling. Like, you won't make it on the 5-star $20% tip rate. If sellers would need to work off tips and 5-star ratings, it would not be a good plan. I always believe in like 5-star 20% tip, right? Like that is that's the bar for me. And if you do something extraordinary, you go over, or otherwise 18 or less, right?
Sure.
But what we see down here is there's an environment with a big problem, a bad experience, and an environment with a fantastic new opportunity that AI offers. That is the state, the zeitgeist, as they call it, that we see this developing.
So what's a SaaS company that came up in the previous era to do at this point? right? Like, does it have to be a complete company restructuring and reshuffle? Or what if I'm a VP of sales and I'm like, Jacco, I hear everything you're saying, I'm bought in on it, but we're the CRM company. We're like, we already have this whole product. We've already invested all the resources. Like, that's what we are. Can we change our sales motion to change? Or does it have to be a complete company restructuring and how we go to market?
I think we need to learn from what we currently see and then apply that to our business with a thoughtful mindset of what is and what is not possible. The one thing that every company needs to take note, and as a point of data to make sure that to relate the point that I'm saying is like every given day, winning by design helps companies grow from X million to Y million. So imagine we will help a company grow from $450 million to $800 million to go IPO, or we're helping a company to go from $2 billion to $3 billion and sell more efficiently. Things like that, right? We help one company to grow 100x by closing more $1 million deals. Like, this is the world we live in. A company wants to grow, and they want to grow from point A to point B. That is what they don't come and say, I want AI. It's not the point, right? AI is a tool to that measure.
Yep.
All that. Every time, when all these companies, big, small, from $20 million to $30 million, we help dozens of companies with that. What they do is their data infrastructure is so immature compared to an AI native. Two departments are not talking with each other. Their idea of real-time data for an AI native versus a SaaS native is totally different. SaaS natives often working with databases that get synced once a day or once a week or something like these databases need to be synced. That's unimaginable in an AI native world. It's all real-time data. There's no syncing happening. It's real time. And so what we see, and let me talk about the marketing database and the sales database being two complete different entities that have to be constantly translated, right? And everybody that says on the phone, oh, no, we don't have that problem, I can tell you, there's very few companies. There's 1% of companies who don't have that problem. 99% of all companies, when you look behind the scene, the data is a mess. It is not a coherent set of data, whether they have a CRM or not have a CRM. Besides the point often. But you need that. Number one, everybody needs to have a proper data system. And that starts in our world, you know it well, with the bow tie. You need to have a single data system, a standardized data system that covers the entire customer journey with a data structure that can be deployed across a PLG motion, an enterprise motion, an SMB, mid-market size motion. We cannot have PLG language to use enterprise sales or enterprise vernacular in order to do PLG. It needs to have room for that. And that's obviously why earlier on I created or leveraged the bow tie.
Yep. Interesting. So is winning by design susceptible to this AI shift? Is it like, are you changing how you're running your business because of what you're noticing in some of these other AI native companies?
Yeah, very much so, Tom. I think very much. I think that what we are noticing is that, obviously, we are a company that historically provided most of our content and insights in the public domain. I've always believed in if you share, good things happen, and people adopt it and so on and so forth, and not with the intent like, oh, we're going to charge every time somebody says the word bow tie or that's not the intent, right? You can't, like that. The thought is create a framework that everybody can leverage and use out in the market, right? Now we protect it that other people can't monetize this, right? Like I think that, and Tom, the mindset here is we are creating a national park that contains bow tie and spiced and several of our other frameworks. That's a national park. What I don't want is a food truck to pull up in the national park that is for everybody and start selling off things, right? That's not, folks.
Yeah.
It's not how we run things, right? So that's the only thing. We protect it to make sure that other people cannot illegally monetize it and take advantage of unsuspected users in the market. That's the mindset. But other than that, use it, leverage it, like for people to build a proper growth system.
Yeah. So you mentioned the CEO of OneMind earlier, and I'm pretty sure OneMind is what I've had some conversations with Jack on the Winning by Design site. I think that was built by OneMind, right?
That's correct. Yes, we are using OneMind.
So I think in your post on LinkedIn, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when you were talking about AI native companies, one thing that stood out to me was I think you mentioned they're not using AI much as part of the actual go-to-market process. And I think if you go on LinkedIn, generally speaking, you see a lot of content around AI SDRs and this and that. And, you know, there's a lot of hype around it, but it sounds like that in your mind is not quite making it mainstream or not really moving the needle as much as in other parts of the business. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd be curious to hear, like, what are your thoughts with the future of AI when it's, you know, is it a bunch of jacks rolling around that are having conversations with customers and prospects? And are we going to get phased out? And how do you view like where things are going to go a year from now, 5 years from now?
Okay, so let me set the stage for this.
Yeah.
Do you have, wherever you are in the world, do you have one of those fields or orchards where it says pluck your own fruit? Here's a ladder from the tree, or strawberries, right? Like these fields.
Yeah.
They go like,
Yeah.
okay. Now imagine they opened that field, barely opened it. You literally, they opened the fence for the first time. So strawberries abound on the ground, right? Now you want to get all the best strawberries, right? Like. But it's all fresh. It's all like your main problem is, as this is a greenfield opportunity, is grab as much as you can as quick as you can.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go inspect it. Is this strawberry good? You go like, dude, everything is fantastic. Like it's and so your approach is do as much and as quick as possible. Okay. In that world, current AI natives can grab so much market share so quickly. They don't have to worry about efficiency. It just do more. Like go fast. Like and you see that sometimes in the movie in the Wild West, where you can claim a piece of territory as they claimed territory, right? You got a flag, you get on your horse, you ride to whoever gets there first, plants their flag. That's your like this is not about like, that's the world that they live in. Claim as fast as you can, as much as you can.
Yep.
Now, we call that the do more lever. And the do more lever, we in SaaS have a lot. We came from the do more level. The problem is we stuck in that do more leads, more salespeople, spend more on SEO, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Only over the past years do we have to come do better. And do better says, hey, I got the same resources or less, but I got to use them more efficiently to get the same or an increased amount of output. And so now we see campaigns that say, okay, train your sales team, target your ICP correctly, right? These are all efficiency things. Efficiency, do better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do better, Tom, AI has an ability to do it at lower cost. So I can do the same at lower cost. But AI also has the ability, which we use Jack for, to answer customers around the world. Winning by Design, fortunately, is a global brand. But we only have an SDR on staff for 6-7 hours, working hours a day.
Yeah.
So now with AI, with OneMind AI, we are having 24/7 support, right? And then we are now entering the world that the new languages, you can already start speaking a different language to it, and it starts responding back in a different language. Okay, now we got cultural bridges happening, right? So now to do better is getting new dimensions. Time-based, 24/7, cultural-based, speak your language, like, and so on. And so do better now suddenly becomes an option. And then there's a third option. And the third option is do things smarter. And when think smarter, these are growth loops, right? Use your customers, use the users in order to help create a more pipeline, spread word of mouth using viral, use loops like expansion, figuring out where customers are using your product and giving them the right expansion. Most people, when you categorize, there's an enormous amount of opportunity that if you could only identify the remaining 60-70% of customers who would be open to buying the same expansion, but historically we had a hard time with that because CSMs had to manually do that. AI can now identify like, hey, that feature or that product, these are the 70% of customers that you already have that you should sell them. That's doing things smarter, and smarter almost always have a growth loop associated with it. What did I learn? How did it work? And how can I pull that back? So it learns on itself, right? In AI can play a role in do more. AI can play a role in do better, and AI can role do things smarter. It is just in what stage of the company you're at. And what you'll see, AI natives are in the do more stage. People are pouring down their door. Where are they deploying AI? They're deploying it in the back office, learning what are their users doing with their product. How can we create not like 4 ICPs or 5 ICPs, but how can we create 15,000 different ICPs. The same that the ad market has already done, right? Ad markets, I think, operate in generally around 5,000 ICPs. They don't know you as Tom. They know you as a credit card number that buys whatever, Phil's over Starbucks, Whole Foods over Trader Joe's, right? Like they know you by your profile. They don't know you by name. We are entering the world that SaaS natives need to learn who are your users of your products. How are they using it? And not on 3 or 4 ICPs, but on 5,000 ICPs. And when we drawing 5,000 ICPs, we cannot hand that off to Winning by Design and go like, Winning by Design, like if you create 5 ICPs for us, it costs $25,000. Can you do 5,000? Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
But AI does that natively. You can train your AI systems to get the hold of the ICPs. Who are the super users? Who are the super users of this feature? Who always are on LinkedIn talking about it, right? You can have AI pull those folks out and then run campaigns on them to make sure that they are better input, speak more highly about it, whatever you want to do.
How are you educating yourself personally on, because things are moving so quickly, like what are the top resources that you use? Are you reading in a certain area? Are you watching certain people? Do you just play around with Cursor and Replit and Lovable yourself? Like how are you staying on the cutting edge of all this?
Personally? I do that, but not with Cursor and Replit because I'm not a programmer. But for example, OneMind, a very close engagement, get perspective from guy in the past, former founder of the Tango, get really, like you got to do it. You can't understand it. Now, and I cannot understate, Tom, I am every day 6-7 hours between ChatGPT, Perplexity, you name it, I'm in there every day, every single day. There's like, I'm always worried if my browsers collapse every now and then, right? I got to start everything back up. Like, okay, where's my threats again? Because, and not like as an average user, I think I'm a power user on all these. I buy all the premium subscriptions, have working projects, upload particular content, set contextual window, all that stuff, right? But 6-7 hours a day. And then the other day, I hear something like Apple. I'm venting now, okay?
Yeah,
I hear
go for it.
Somebody like Apple saying, "Oh my gosh, perplexed." Like what was Apple said? Like, "Oh, AI is not real." I'm going like, folks, I can tell you the way I'm using AI every day to help me create better decks, help me fine tune, speak more fluent English, make sure that my slides look great. Of course, I'm coming up with the IDs. But I did not have a tool like that 4 years ago, right? Like it has, I'm significantly more productive now with content, right? With being able to create content. So that's one. Yep. The other thing I hear a lot, Tom, again, it's like people call them rappers around it, right? Like, and I go like, what do you mean with a rapper? Like, so in the beginning, I kind of like started listening to that. I go like, oh yeah, they're probably right. It's just probably a cool rapper, right? Like it's a rapper as in you're using an LLM for the listeners. And then you write some shell around it, some website around it, right? And then I read this article by a guy named Yusuf Ben Mahmoud, and he goes like, folks, if you think about it, Uber is a wrapper around a taxi. And if you think about it, like everything is wrappers around it. And why is that? Because when you have a utility, anything that builds on that utility can be seen as a wrapper of the utility. Like, yes, we build cars around gasoline or car engines. Like everything, like the car is the wrapper around the engine. The engine is the wrapper around, like, yes, that's what it's a utility. So I am off this thing is like, these are just wrappers. What I do think wrappers as with a W in front of it, right? My mispronunciation. Yeah. The thing here is, the main thing that the wrapper focuses on is it brings the solution of what is the utility here, right? And so that we need to start thinking about this. It's like, folks, these are utilities. Utilities don't work on their own. I still need a faucet. I can call a faucet and say, yeah, that's a wrapper around around water. Yeah, I know, but still need billions of faucets around the world, right? So like, it's a fantastic market. That's how I'm making sure that your listeners get that concept and the power of it, because the way we work, for me at least, it has radically changed. And I don't think I'm alone. I think anybody in GTM right now, we're all going like, this has radically changed. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm sitting in those tools with you several hours a day, and I feel like the best way is to learn by doing and trying things out. And I've taken a few courses through, Pavilion and some other places just to try to, expand my mind. But I think just diving into the tools themselves and trying to figure it out and watching a YouTube video about it while you're doing it, to me at least, has been the best starting point to try to learn and expand my mindset, because I don't, personally, I don't have any sort of engineering background or any sort of product background. It's only, in the sales lens, at least like, for my career prior to this. So I feel like it's almost illuminating a different part of my brain, trying to figure out and play with some of these tools.
That's right. But it's not a self-driving car yet, I have to say.
Yeah.
You can't rely on it. Like I can't, like I'll make, like hundreds of corrections during the day. So like, and meaningful corrections, not like, oh, you're just like, no. Like, hey, you got it totally wrong. So the human in the loop concept, the HITL, is super high still, right? Like, but the promise is that will improve. But even if it doesn't improve, I'm already telling you, for most of us in GTM, it's very, very effective and a very effective tool.
If you were a sales leader today, would you feel more, with all the tools and everything we're talking about, would you feel more optimistic about the next 5 years, or would you feel a little bit worried about where things are going to go and whether or not you're going to be needed?
Incredibly optimistic.
Why?
And I'm going to say things that insult. I don't think the listeners to your podcast will get insulted by it, but look, we have a surplus of people who had nowhere else to make money, who ended up in our market making money because it's a place where they could make six-figure salaries with doing the littlest as possible and not even care about customers. 70%, and that's probably, I don't know if that's high, but 70%. Whenever we go into training and we have a large group, I ask my trainers, there's one question they all know I'm asking. As they step out of the room or they step off stage, how much percentage of the people wants to be in this room? Like they truly want to, and I mean like, okay, you can either go mountain biking, you can go to the beach right now, or you want to be in this room. How many, if we offer everybody the option, how many people would stay in that room and say like, no, educate me, right? Like, I don't think very high. Not very high. And those who stay in the room, to them, I have this message for you. It's gonna be fantastic moving forward. Hallelujah. We're going to shed all these passengers that we've been taking. They call them passengers on the Tour de France, right? All these riders. It's going to be champion time. It's going to be money-making time, right? Like, to us, welcome, people. This is the professionals coming to work, right? But, ditch all the amateurs that were here to make lots of money and didn't care. And yes, there is a large group, like I say, 10% is the top performers. 20% can be convinced and are just people in development. But there's 70%, and we see it in the metrics, Tom. There's 70% that if they can go somewhere else, and I'm sorry, but you got to be passionate. And the future of what we do is about passion for your customers, passion for the solution. And that is, I think, many people misunderstand that. It's not just your product, but it's also the deep understanding of your market that is going on, and that often takes years. Yeah. You cannot just understand a market that's complex in a matter of like 6 to 12 to 18 months. Like it takes a decade to know a market really well.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And, one of the things I'm deeply, deeply passionate about, the craft of sales. Just like if you were an artist or a musician or an athlete or a carpenter, it's a craft to be mastered. And I do genuinely think there's a very small percentage of people in the industry that view themselves that way, and I'm on a mission to try to change that. But I'm just curious from your perspective. You go into a room and let's say you ask your trainer or you're asking yourself that question and you walk off stage, you're like, I think 8% of those 100 people, 8 out of those 100 probably view sales the same way as me. And you strike me as someone that is, we're of the same mind of that passion. Does that not ever kind of bum you out that that's the state of affairs? Or do you view it in like, hey, at some point, those folks are going to get kind of weeded out and it's only going to be the strongest, most passionate people that are going to, continue to push the craft forward?
I believe that the 8% need very little help from me in your case. I believe that the 92%, this is why I'm here to preach, to help, to push them to help, to guide them in the right direction. So to me, it's not the 80% that I'm selling to, it's the 92% that I'm selling to. So, like a lot of people to convince.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think you can get them all? Like if there's 100 in a room,
no,
what percent of those 92?
No, I don't want them all. No, that's not the point. I think that what you want is remember, what was the statement I had on my LinkedIn profile?
That it working with customers opened your eyes and changed your life.
I'm there to open their eyes. Right, that's it. And and then the journey is theirs to take. But you can come, now I was very privileged that I was given that opportunity where you are taught, and you have a coach assigned to you at Philips Electronics, and then he opens your eyes, right? Like, can you imagine? And I'm a big believer, Tom, that we are going to soon see the comeback of in-person sales training, which is what I experienced, right? Like Mike Damore would walk me into a room and he would tell me, do you see the seat set up in this room, right? Talk to me about what you see in this room, right? Where do you think you're going to sit yourself? Where are you going to put your back? Because you put your back on the opposite sides, right? So you have two shots. So you sit in the chair, but you put your back somewhere else. So you have two shots on the table to opportunity. Where are you going to make your customer look, right? Like, and not with the intent of manipulating, just by like your song, you're a musician. Look at the stage.
Yeah.
How are you going to set up the band, right? Like. And so he took me through that, and who's in the room? What do you know about them? Did you go to the bathroom? Did you look at the board? When you checked in at the front desk, did you talk to the lady or the guy? What's up front? Everything? Like, that is the level of expertise that we're going to see a comeback, because with all the AI, we're going to see that 70%. We're going to see an increase in the AI, but I'm telling you, Tom, 30% go to an increased amount of human selling be on the road, learn how to do whiteboarding correctly. We were taught how to write. How do you write on a whiteboard properly, right? Where do you start? How do you build that? Have you practiced it before? So you're not starting somewhere in the middle and then run out of space. Like, these are all things that can be taught, and that's the 30%.
Yeah, I agree with you. A couple of experts that have come on this podcast recently have said the same thing. The in-person, there's the lane for being on the cutting edge of AI, and then there's the old school getting back in front of customers, writing handwritten thank you notes, those types of, strategies and moves that I think are going to be more and more greatly appreciated and more respected, and are going to move the needle more in a world where everyone's hiding behind the phone and the Zoom screen and what have you.
Look, but this is important. Old school doesn't apply to where we're going.
Tell me more.
I believe that the lessons from old school apply to where we're going, but not old school itself. Okay, because there was a lot of negative side effects of old school that we also got to be very alpha-based mindset, very male-centric mindset, very, like, I'm not helping my colleague because I'm not going to put money in their pocket kind of mindset.
Totally.
So there's a whole bunch of side effects from old school that we want to be very cautious of. So what I'm saying is we're going to have new school, people who have learned to sell remote and online and use that, who are being taught the best of the best skills and characteristics of what we used to do in in-person selling. And therefore, as you say, it's not I don't fear AI, I fear the person who uses AI. This is what that applies to, right? We should not worry about old school or new school. We should worry about, like, hey, how is a modern seller being able to use both AI and conventional in-person techniques? And to me, when we meet a customer, you don't need to meet a customer, like once a month or something like that. Not in many cases. In many cases, you need to meet a customer once or twice a year, and everything else can be done with remote selling, right? And I'm a super believer in, when you go to LA, go visit. Don't make it a single day trip. Don't visit one person in the customer.
Jam it up. Yeah.
Jam it up, right? And with Pavilion at night, bring your Pavilion, bring Pavilion together, go open up a credit card, tap somewhere, go grab drinks.
Put it on Sam Jacobs' card, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But you make that, like use all that, right? That is a way of modern selling. But I want to give you, with all these change abound, and people may feel uncertain, there's three things that are going to remain the same. And I think that if we stick on these three things, whoever listens to this podcast, you're going to be fine. These three things are not going to change. And so in many cases, people design businesses around things that change. I think it's very healthy to design businesses around things that stay the same. Here's the three things that stay the same. If you work for a SaaS native, AI native, it doesn't matter. Almost all of these companies are venture funded. And that means that it is about growth, not about cost, about growth. Now, cost is a secondary importance. You cannot buy growth. If you buy growth, then the cost goes up. But you got to earn growth. So that's important. Number one, growth. Number two, in order to grow, you now, today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, a successful company will need to have those who use the product to be successful. There is no like you cannot grow into $1 billion revenue company without those who buy your product or service do not be successful with it. So number one, it's all about growth. Number two, growth is always about making your customer successful, period. And number three, in order to do that, it doesn't matter what, but if you want to build a sustainable growing business, you don't have to grow it at 200% a year, even if you grow it at 5%, 10% a year. If you grow a business successful over a decade time frame, you're going to be dependent on three things: process, systems, and people. Now, what we see over the past decade, we focus very much on people-centric growth. In other words, SDRs, BDRs, MDRs, CSMs, account managers, AEs, and whatnot, right? Volume of people, because the AI systems weren't there yet. Now what we see, and we over-indexed on that. We used way too many salespeople for that, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're switching to the other side. And for a brief moment, we'll find, the right balance. And then we will switch over and we'll hit too much AI. It's going to 2 years. It's just a matter of waiting for it, right? But we're going to see. But remember, these are the three things. It's always about growth. Growth comes from successful customers. If you want to do that repeatedly, process, systems, and people are the tools that you use for that.
Well said. That's a great place for us to start closing up shop. Jacco, first of all, thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with the podcast. I want to give you some space here to talk about where everyone can follow you and check out you and Winning by Design and everything else you got going on.
Yeah, so first things first, thank you all for being here. It was fantastic for you folks. If you got this far into the podcast, really appreciate you. You are not being taken for granted. What we are focused on in Winning by Design is what we call, many of you have learned already about revenue architecture. If not, there's a book and it's popular and all that stuff. And now we're developing on top of that what we call growth architecture. So revenue architecture, think of that as mathematics. How do systems work? And growth architecture, think of that, I'm using mathematics to build a bridge. And that bridge in our world is building growth machines, right? And so we are opening classes within 30 days into growth architecture, how to learn how to build growth machines, using these compound loops, closed loops. How do we build that together? And if there's teams interested in that, we do workshops for teams. And then what follows is all our consulting and services to boot. But those are the things. You can find us at winningbydesign.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you reach out to LinkedIn, I know it's not always easy because sometimes you got to hit that, you got to go to the name, hit the double, triple button, connect, and then you get the comment node. But I do not accept a lot of invites because it's those invites start when they start messaging, right, or on LinkedIn, they create a very polluted stream for me, right? So I keep the stream very light and easy. So, but if you write a note, if you're Advent, if you're like passionate about this, I'll love to connect with you. Okay, we passionate people, Tom, myself, and others, we need to group up and enjoy where the future is headed for all of us.
Keep the bar high on those personalized invites. Jacco, appreciate you. Thank you for leading the way for many things in the sales training and the evolution of sales. And appreciate you spending some time with me today.
Most welcome. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks for checking out that episode. Two quick things as a takeaway. Number one, we would feel honored if you left a review wherever you're listening to this podcast, if it's on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, to just let us know how we're doing, what else you'd like to see. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can check us out at tasales.co. Love to hear from you there. Much love. Have a great week.